Yes, on a Friday football fiasco, it is Ken Thomson, J.D. Sharp here in studio on the pregame.com celebrity guest line. Brad Powers joining us as well. We're going to roll through all the college football games, the NFL in rotation order over the next hour and 53 minutes. We are live at Legacy Stadium. J.D. and myself opens up 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Monday through Friday. Saturdays and Sundays football season, they open it up early, about 8:45. Both those days you can wager right here. Canner Gaming's got the sportsbook set up. Happy hour 3 to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday. Ladies' night on Wednesdays. Doesn't get much better than the rooms here at the Venetian Palazzo. It's as I say, top of the line. You can also rent out Legacy Stadium, 600 people or more, up to 1,400, actually 1,388 to be exact. You can contact Stacy Velez as far as that goes. But the number here to make reservations, if you want to get in here, college football Saturday, NFL football Sunday, 702, of course, you know that area code, 607-2665, 607-2665, Legacy Stadium. Go online if you have not seen pictures of this place, the best sports bar in all the world. I've never seen anything better. JD, you know that, and you've been here now and you've been coming here, but this place is outstanding. And then Emerald Legacy's food.
Yeah, this place is top of the line. There's no reason, and I've stated this before, there's no reason this place shouldn't be packed every single day. It probably fits 2,000 people.
There you go. Well, no, it's we got a 1,388 is what we've got as far as for reservations, so we got it there. Venetian for rooms. Right now with the Life is Beautiful concert, I don't think there's any rooms available, but you can check it out, 866-263-2999, 866-263-2999. Call that number, find out if there's any rooms. Sometimes you do get some cancellations, but the rooms are the best here, and you can get 1, 2, 3, 4-bedroom suites. Outstanding stuff. Venetian side, Palazzo side, everything going on. Great nightlife, Town Nightclub, Electric Cocktail Club, Rosina Cocktail Lounge, the Dorsey Cocktail Bar, all part of the Cocktail Collective. You can check any of those venues out. Also great shows in town. You got Human Nature from Australia, of course, doing their Motown and more. Atomic Saloon Show, going to be checking that out. Looking forward to that. Tony Bennett comes in town on the 25th of this month. He'll be here the 25th, 27th, and 28th. Call 414-9000 for reservations. Always the 702 area code. I'm throwing that out there for you. Michael McDonald comes in on October. And then Adair Miller does a special comedy show October the 17th. That's a Thursday night. Then Willie Nelson comes in. Willie Nelson and family for a short residency. And Foreigner will be here starting up in January. When you do come into Legacy Stadium, your first glass of One Hope Chardonnay or Cabernet or your first Bud Light draft on the house, courtesy of KDWN and SportsX Radio. It is the Friday football fiasco. Let's go real quick to the Richard Badge and Finley Toyota out-of-town scoreboard. We'll give it one time. Keep you updated on the 3 football games that are rolling right now. College football, it is 21-10. USC has just scored in the third quarter, leading Utah. 9:54 to go. The Utes have outgained Southern Cal, but they are struggling on the scoreboard. Southern Cal standing up. Their quarterback, Slovis, went out. First series after 2 completed passes, got drilled to the ground, and Matt Fink has stepped in, done an outstanding job. Southern Cal 21, Utah 10, 9:54 to go at the Coliseum. Third quarter. I'm on the wrong side of that. That's what you get betting against your guys. Sometimes they'll come back and bite you. Louisiana Tech, they've just scored again. They now lead Florida International down in Ruston. 4:55 to go fourth quarter, 33-24. That total 51, so that game's already gone up and over the total. La Tech laying 7, now covering that number. And Air Force, good solid win last week in overtime at Colorado. Beat boys from Boulder. Right now trying to win on the blue carpet. First time in a while. Air Force 13-10. They lead Boise State. 1:24 to go in the third quarter. Baseball, not going to get into any stats. These are finals. St. Louis beat the Cubs 2-1. Mets 8-1 over Cincinnati. So the Cubbies now falling 2 games behind the Brewers for that wild card game because Milwaukee's game has just gone final. 10-1. They rout Pittsburgh at Miller Park. Atlanta clinches the NL East. First time in a while for the Braves. Fultonavich throws a shutout against San Francisco, 6-0 the final there. Washington wins at Miami by a score of 6-4. Arizona leads San Diego 2-0, top 4 at Petco, and 3-1. Colorado surprising the Dodgers early on, and they got 3 off Kershaw early. It's bottom 3, 3-1 Colorado. American League, Toronto wins at Yankee Stadium, 4-3 the final there. Baltimore holds off Seattle at Camden Yards, 5-3. Another 10-1 final with the White Sox knocking off Detroit at Comerica. And then we have Tampa Bay coming back and winning in 11, beat Boston, trailing that game 3-0, but they come back and beat Boston in 11. They stay pace with Cleveland as the Tribe got a win as well. Tribe knocking off Philadelphia in the only interleague game 5-2. Houston's just finished off the Angels 6-4. Minnesota leads KC 4-3. That's top 9. And Oakland, a 4-0 shutout behind Fires at home over Texas. The A's in front in that wild card race, and it's a good one. coming into tonight, Tampa Bay and Cleveland. We're all knotted. They stay knotted as both those teams taking care of business. All right, time to get into the college basketball or the college football. College basketball, we'll have to wait a little bit, but college football. Brad Powers on the pregame.com celebrity guest line. He is with us, and we'll start it out. Rotation order: UL Monroe goes to Iowa State, and a UL Monroe team that nearly took down Florida State, lost a game in overtime on a missed extra point. It's a team that I think coached pretty well by Viator. Caleb Evans, a pretty good dual threat quarterback. They've got some other key components, including running back Josh Johnson, taking on an Iowa State team. And JD, you're from Iowa. Boy, there's just something about those Cyclones. They cannot beat the Hawkeyes. They did get the cover of that game, plus 1.5, 2.5, although some people may have lost. Depends when you played that game. But somehow, some way, Iowa finds ways to win that game.
Yeah, the Iowa game last week was very, very interesting. I thought that Iowa State actually was probably the better team, but this Hawkeye team, they're missing Alaric Jackson, they're missing a couple of guys in their secondary, and they're still winning these games. I think Iowa has a chance to go undefeated.
Brad, your take on this one?
Yeah, tough one, because I think it's a tough spot for Iowa State coming off the emotional 1-point loss to Iowa last week. UL Monroe off the bye. Seems like a big number to lay here. My power ratings, though, say Iowa State to play. Situation says UL Monroe. I'm actually passing KT.
All right, it's Iowa State right now sitting at 18-point favorite, 53.5 the total from Ames, Iowa. The weather, keep an eye on the weather. 45% chance of showers there, about 73 degrees. There's several games where the rain could come into play, and we'll let you know on those venues. Miami of Ohio, they'll go to the Horseshoe, take on Ohio State. Buckeyes minus 38.5, 56. There's no doubt this Buckeye team is formidable. I think one of the most improved teams as far as, when you lose a lot of key components like they did on the defense, lose a couple real solid players, including Nick Bosa, on offense as well, losing a ton on the receiving core, on the line, on the offensive line, and I'm very impressed with the way this Buckeye team has just dismantled teams. Justin Fields has been outstanding. He's thrown for 9. He's rushed for 4 more. Dobbins has 4 on the ground, over 400 yards, and it's a team that is getting the most of their receiving core as well. Victor, Olave, and Hill all stepping up so far, and an Ohio State Buckeye defense that's been solid. Now, the schedule hasn't been daunting, but at the end of the day, you play who's on your schedule, and I think they can probably take care of Miami of Ohio, but it's a lot of points to give a team that's from in-state. 38.5, Buckeyes favored, 56 the total. Brad?
Yeah, KT, looking at it here, it looks a little steep. The question is Ohio State going to run it up on an in-state school? They certainly did against Cincinnati earlier this year. I just like what Chuck Martin, the Miami coach, said earlier this week when facing Ohio State. It's like going to recess and they have the first 85 picks. No play for me. I think the line right around 39 is about right. With it continuing to climb a little bit, though, I might talk myself into leaning with Miami, Ohio.
Yeah, I would never take Ohio State. You have to look at Miami, Ohio, plus 39. Their strength is actually in their secondary. Their quarterback's relatively accurate. 40 points is a lot.
All right, we'll see how that game pans out. Another big spread. Next game on the line, Charlotte in Death Valley to take on Clemson. Clemson minus 41.5. The line has actually come down 3 points since it opened at 44.5. 61.5 is the total. A Clemson team that we know is the real deal with Lawrence, although if you look at his stats, 5 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, that'll catch your eye right there. Etienne had that big first game, has 334 yards, 3 touchdowns, but he had 2 of those touchdowns in the opener. Ross and Higgins, 2 of the better wide receivers on any team, but Chris Reynolds doing a nice job for Charlotte. Benny LeMay, Ishad Finger right now, these 2 guys doing an outstanding job running the football for UNC Charlotte. JD, I'm going to start with you on this one.
Yeah, I like Charlotte here, plus 42.5, plus 43. This Clemson, in order to win this game by 43 points, is going to have to score 70, in my opinion. Charlotte's going to score some points against Clemson.
Brad?
They certainly looked a much improved team in year 1 under Will Healy, and offensively is where it's been for them. I know Dabo Sweeney talked up Charlotte this week, saying, hey, this is the best rushing team we've seen in 3 games. It's the most explosive team we've played to this point. This is a team that could embarrass us. And that is quote-unquote what Dabo said in his press conference this week. Charlotte's not going to embarrass Clemson, but I think they can get the cover here.
Wow, how cool would that be if he's a prophet, man, and those things come true? Elder, Dollar, and Tucker, all pretty good receivers there for the 49ers. And Chris Reynolds has thrown for 587, 7 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and we'll see how that goes. It's a big number, sitting at 41.5 right now. Clemson favored over Charlotte. UConn, they're going to go to Indiana, and it's a UConn team that has switched quarterbacks. Injury came into play, so Zergiadis is the guy right now. He's thrown for 275, no touchdowns, 2 interceptions. It's tough for Randy Edsel to get players there. He's in his second tenure. Don't know how long he'll last. For Indiana, Michael Penix Jr. looks like he'll be ready to go. Peyton Ramsey had to start last week against Ohio State, and it didn't much matter. Buckeyes were going to win that game handily regardless. But Penix Jr., there's a bright future for this young man if they can get some skill position players around him. In the game, it is Connecticut at Indiana. Indiana 27.5-57, Brad.
Yeah, I'm going to lean with Connecticut here. I just like the spot for them coming off a bye. You look at Indiana getting beat up last week and then some against the Buckeyes. A little disappointing in that performance there. I mean, Connecticut played a little well, at least for a half against Illinois. I think the Huskies are improved. I lean with Connecticut here.
Yeah, KT, I lean under here.
All right, so we're going to go under the total there. Again, the total 57. Indiana favored 27.5. Next game on the docket should be a good one. And the Central Florida team just doesn't lose in the regular season. There's no doubt that Josh Heupel has grabbed that baton left by Scott Frost, and he's done a pretty good job. This team continues to excel. Blew out Stanford last week in Orlando. Now they'll go up to Pitt, and Pittsburgh's got to be smarting after dropping the last game, scheduled game anyway, in that rivalry series with Penn State. That game in Happy Valley. Don't understand Narduzzi when you have a 4th and goal from the 1-yard line and you kick a field goal, or you go to kick a field goal. They didn't even make it. And it comes back to bite you. And then in his press conference, he said, well, we needed 2 scores to win the game. Are you kidding me? You're down a touchdown, just making a moron out of yourself. I mean, the guy's not a bad defensive coordinator, but as a head coach, leaves a lot to be desired. But it's a pretty good Pittsburgh team. Had trouble running the ball last week, but Kenny Pickett threw for nearly 400 yards, and Pitt had their chances. In this game, Pittsburgh now catching 10.5 at home. They'll have to get some running from A.J. Davis, Vincent Davis out of the backfield to kind of keep Central Florida off the field with that high-flying offense led by the freshman Dylan Gabriel, who's been outstanding, and McCray in the backfield with Killins. Thompson, pretty good receiver as well out of the backfield. And then you've got Gabriel Davis and Trey Nixon. These guys just flat out are open almost every play, it seems like. JD, I'm going to start with you on this one. Pittsburgh now catching 10.5, but that line started there, but then went up all the way to 14.5, and has come back down, sits at 10.5, total 61.
You know what? I think UCF wins this game. I would never touch the spread either way. I do think they're the real deal, but I lean under again in this game, 61. Narduzzi, his teams play good situational defense. UCF plays good defense as well, and Pittsburgh has a hard time scoring points.
Brad?
Yeah, I'm going to lean with Pitt here. As long as they got their head on straight and they're not, feeling sorry for themselves after they missed opportunity in Happy Valley last week. I think this Pitt defense is legit, and I think, UCF might be a little overinflated as far as the point spread here after that blowout win over, let's face it, it could be a very average or even below average Stanford team at this point. I lean Pitt.
All right, Pittsburgh, of course, very solid defensive line. They lost a couple key components from that defensive line early on. One in training camp, one of their better players, but Jalen Twyman has been outstanding, 4.5 sacks already, and Pitt has 12 sacks on the year. So we'll see if the young freshman does get pressured by the home team. Next game on the docket, UL Lafayette travels to Athens, Ohio to take on the Bobcats and Frank Solich's boys. Ohio right now sitting at a -3, -115, so you got to lay 115 to win 100 instead of the normal 110, but 3 even, 67.5, a high total. We know that Louisiana Lafayette can put points on the board. Levi Lewis, he's their dual threat quarterback, helped them get 28 in a loss in Starkville against Mississippi State. They then beat Liberty and rolled on Texas Southern. No surprise there. But Ragas, Calais, and Mitchell out of the backfield, these guys have combined for 9 touchdowns on the ground already. For Ohio, same story as far as quarterback Nathan Rourke leads the way. And now Tuggle stepping in for the injured Allison. Brad, what about it? Ohio at home, -3 in a game that right now looks like the weather going to cooperate, but you got to keep an eye on any of these games in that Ohio area.
Yeah, I think I agree with the money on Lafayette here. I think at 3, it's a really solid number. Keep in mind, ULL is a perfect 3-0 against the spread this year. I mean, they've covered by a combined 40 points. That's third most in the country so far this season, only behind Kansas State and UCF. So they've been super impressive. Ohio certainly needs the win after coming up 2 points short against Marshall last week. 3 is a really solid number, I think, KT. I'm passing.
Ken, I'll take UL Lafayette in this game, +3.5.
All right, so both guys liking the Raging Cajuns on the road in Athens, Ohio. Nebraska at Illinois. Lovie Smith's boys at home in Champaign. 62 is the total, and Nebraska laying 13.5. Hasn't hit that key number of 14. Adrian Martinez is going to try and stay upright. He's been under duress pretty much all season. Has Mills and Washington, two pretty good running backs, and J.D. Spielman has been outstanding as far as getting open, 11 receptions already on the year for Illinois. Well, Brandon Peters, he's thrown for nearly 700 yards, 9 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. They'll take it. Imitor Baby, who used to play for Southern Cal, and Ricky Smalling, both those guys combining for 26 receptions, 4 of them for touchdowns in the game. Nebraska favored 13.5 in Champaign. JD, what about it?
These are two actually pretty decent defenses. Nebraska has really good corners. Illinois doesn't give up a lot. They're actually pretty athletic defensively. I like the under 63 or KT.
Brad?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little expensive at this point to say Nebraska is the right side here, but I would lean that way. Illinois looked improved the first week and a half of the season, but obviously they came back to earth last week. I think Nebraska puts it on the Fighting Illini here. And keep in mind, Nebraska's really going to travel well. I wouldn't be a bit surprised the crowd's 50-50 here.
Well, it was better than that, I think, maybe in Boulder, and they looked like they were going to take care of business.
KT. Sorry
I know. It's the one that hurts because they were up 17-0 at the half and looked like they were taking care of business. But somehow Colorado, with Tony Brown in the corner of the end zone, came back on a great pass from Montez to win that ball game. Temple off the win at home against Maryland, taking on Buffalo, a Buffalo team that got destroyed on the road last week. Temple minus 14, 50.5. Anthony Russo can flat out wing that ball, and his favorite receiver, Jaden Blue, last week had 5 receptions, 132 and a touchdown. For Buffalo, Matt Myers, he's pretty good quarterback and has a solid tight end in Lefebvre. Zach Lefebvre, 2 touchdown receptions on the year. Buffalo played Penn State real tough for the first half, but they got ripped up pretty good against Liberty after knocking off Robert Morris in their opener. It's a pretty solid Temple team. What about it, Brad?
Okay, T, I think this line's a little inflated here after that big upset that Temple had last. Buffalo did own the line of scrimmage, and they outrushed Liberty by about 130 yards. So they missed a couple field goals. They got stopped on downs twice. That's not as bad as what that final indicated. I lean with the big home underdog here, Buffalo.
Yeah, this line is pretty inflated. I'm surprised it's actually not minus 20 considering just how big of a win Temple had over Maryland and how bad Buffalo was destroyed. Buffalo's quarterback has a 48% completion percentage. I can't put any money behind anyone who has that percentage. I would lean under here.
Meanwhile, Central Michigan, they'll travel to Miami down there to take on the Canes. Jaron Williams and company. Got to like Jaron Williams' numbers if you're a Vegas guy. He's thrown for 777 yards, 6 touchdowns, no interceptions. See how Miami can take care of business as far as this line. Right now, Miami favored by 30. It's gone back and forth between 29.5, the opening line, up to 30, then back to 29.5, and right now sitting at 30. 47.5 is the total. David Moore, quarterback there for Central Michigan. He is in because Dormady is out, so they'll rely on Kobe Lewis, their running back, see what they can do because Jonathan Ward, their starting guy from the beginning of the year, is also out. Brad, what about it? Miami should be able to name the score. We saw Wisconsin pace Central Michigan 61-0, and if the Canes are focused, I think they can blow out Central Mich as well.
Yeah, I agree with that, and we've seen the money now come in on Miami here in the last couple of hours. It's gone up about a point, so I agree with it. As long as they're focused in on this one, they should. They're only 1-2 on the season, and they weren't afraid to put one on Bethune-Cookman last week. So as long as they're focused, I think that Central Michigan wilts in the heat and humidity of South Florida late in that game.
Yeah, I don't see Central Michigan scoring 10 points in this game. I think it's a 45-7 type of game in Miami's favor, like the minus 30.5.
Meanwhile, Virginia, they're home in Charlottesville. Money going on ODU because it's a sandwich spot here for Virginia. They'll play Notre Dame next week. They come off the fortunate victory against Florida State, a game that Brad and I both thought Virginia was going to take care of business in Charlottesville. They needed a late touchdown and 2-point conversion by Perkins, their quarterback, in order to get that cover. Perkins has thrown for 668, 5 touchdowns, but 4 interceptions. Not so good. Tallulah Papa out of the backfield. He has missed a game, but he's pretty good. When he plays, he's their main guy as far as toting that pigskin. They have a couple pretty good receivers in Reed and Dubois. Those guys have combined for 3 touchdowns and 33 receptions so far. Meanwhile, ODU, gotta love this guy, Smart, their quarterback. He's been pretty good. He's a dual threat. Brad, a lot of money coming in on ODU, the Monarchs. 27 is what it is now, but it was 29.5. I'm sure you jumped on this.
Yeah, I did. I bet it. Old Dominion. I even used Old Dominion in the Golden Nugget contest. I mean, you just got to take advantage of some of those stale numbers, especially with the money coming in on the dog here. You hit the nail on the head. It's a flat spot for Virginia off one of their biggest home games that they've had in 20 years last week. Got an exciting win. I wish they would have covered. They didn't. Probably didn't even deserve to cover. Then you got the big game at Notre Dame on deck. So, Old Dominion off a bye and played with Virginia Tech. Let's be honest. In their last game, only lost by 2 touchdowns. I like ODU here.
Yeah, I don't see Old Dominion losing this game by 30 points or more. I like Old Dominion plus 29.
There you go. Old Dominion right now, though, it's down to 27. So if you got 29 or if you can find a 29, jump on it. But JD, man, JD still likes the stale numbers. He wants them. He's probably on it already with that number. So we'll give you the current line. Coastal Carolina, they'll take on UMass. This UMass defense is bad. And Randall West got banged up, so Brito had to go quarterback-wise, but neither guy really having much success. Coastal Carolina, Fred Payton, he's a dual threat, has Marable in the backfield, who's done a pretty good job not only running the ball but catching the ball out of the backfield as well. Coastal Carolina, a team that's already got a road win at Kansas, and it is Coastal Carolina minus 17 big ones. 61.5 is the total, Brad.
Yeah, it's a big number, although I'll say this, KT. I love my power ratings. I've never had an FBS team power rated lower than when I have UMass right now. I got them like a 38. Keep in mind, to compare that, an Alabama or Clemson sitting, it's a 0 to 100 scale, and I got like an Alabama and Clemson at 100, meaning that they'd be about a 62-point favorite on a neutral. I've never had that in my power ratings ever before. It's just too big of a point spread for me to lay on the road with Coastal. Even though I've been very impressed with them so far this season, I'd actually lean with the Minutemen here.
Lean over 62.5 here, KT.
And Brad, just remembering that first quarter when UMass had a 21-7 lead over Rutgers out of the gate, and we're like, yeah. What's going on? Brad then shaves his head.
It's all been downhill from that point.
You shaved your head, and UMass can't do a thing right since then. You really put the whammy on them. Meanwhile, Michigan State, a lot of money come in on the Spartans early on. Now, late money's come in on Northwestern. Right now, the line's sitting at 8.5. Sparty favored in Evanston, total down to 36.5. And it's a Michigan State team that, man, their offense was like watching paint dry last week against Arizona State. Just couldn't cash in. Here's a team plus 11 as far as in the sack department. Kenny Willekes has 4 sacks already. This guy will be a first rounder. I think he's one of the best defensive linemen in the country. Batchy, an outstanding middle linebacker as well. Lewerke not doing a bad job as far as touchdowns to interceptions. Last year, threw 8 touchdowns, had 11 picks. 4-1 so far, but they're just not cashing in when they get inside the red zone. They've got White and Stewart, decent receivers, and Dotson, pretty good tight end. Collins has done a nice job running the football, the freshman. For Northwestern, Hunter Johnson finally got a touchdown pass against UNLV. Rebels actually within 2 at the half, but then Northwestern opens it up a little bit. Rebs still get a cover. Drake Anderson's doing the running now for Northwestern because they've been banged up. Swanrick and Jefferson, the receiving, they're the main guys, but the linebacking core with Bergen, Fisher, and Gallagher is outstanding for Pat Fitzgerald. They're a former Northwestern linebacker head coach. What about it, Brad? Michigan State, 8.5 now, 36.5 in Evanston.
Yeah, a little. We're starting to see a little bit of money come back on Northwestern. I agree with that, and this is my favorite trend of the week, and it's not gaudy as far as 90% type of trend, but it's a huge sample size, and to me, it makes a lot of sense. So what I looked up is how do teams do laying a touchdown or more when we have a really low total here, and the lowest total in college football so far. It's down to 36, KT. I'm going to have to query that one up and see the last time we had that low of a total in college football. But I certainly don't want to lay points with that low of a total, and it's been, a negative. When you're laying more than a touchdown with a low total, you're only hitting 43% of the time, and this is all-time dating back the last 15 years, and we're talking a 400-plus game sample size here. I'm on Northwestern.
I look at Hunter Johnson, and he is just horrific. Whenever I see a quarterback that bad play a team like Michigan State just destroys him, typically. I like Michigan State to win this game by 20 points. Plus, Cam Chambers might play, and Trey Williams is out for Northwestern, and he's probably their best cornerback. So I like the Spartans here.
All right, we'll see. And then, as I told you, Anderson's going to be the starting back as far as in the backfield. Isaiah Bowser, Jesse Brown, both banged up there for Northwestern, both still listed as questionable last I saw. Next game on the docket's got Boston College Troy traveling to Akron, and a Troy team favored by 17.5, 56.5 the total. But it's an Akron team that can't protect their quarterback, Cato Nelson. They just have trouble moving the football. And Troy, Caleb Barker, he's been outstanding, throwing 6 touchdowns, no picks, 786 yards. He's very solid. There's no question that this Troy team is going to be a factor in the Sun Belt. We know Appalachian State pretty good. UL Monroe could be up there as well. The Raging Cajuns could be a lot of fun watching that Sun Belt unfold. But Troy taking on Akron. Brad, what about it? Do the Trojans go in there and romp?
Yeah, it's just too big of a number for me to lay at 17.5, even though, I mean, I'm first off, I'm not high on Troy this year, but I'm certainly not high on Akron either. I mean, it's tough saying, hey, take Akron here after that pathetic performance last week against Central Michigan, a Central Michigan team playing their backup quarterback and backup running back, but I just think the number is too inflated. I lean with the Zips.
So Akron has given up 18 sacks this year, KT, to 2. I like Troy minus 17 here. I think they can win by 30 plus, but I would never ever touch Akron in this situation for the reason I just stated.
There you go. It's not easy to trust Akron, that's for sure. Boston College is actually SportsX Michelle's bet of the week. She liked BC. It was -8 when she gave it out, or 7.5, and it actually had gone up to 8, and that's where it sits right now. They're in Rutgers. 57.5 is a total for Rutgers. A change in quarterback. McLean Carter is out for this game. It looks like, well, he's listed as doubtful, but they have named Sitkowski as the starter. He's only thrown 11 passes for 19 yards and an interception, so nothing there. He does have starting experience from last year. Brad, this Rutgers team, I mean, we saw them get going against UMass. The game's in Jersey, but Boston College, they got to be smarting about having Kansas break a 48-game losing streak against Power 5 conference teams on the road, and they put up a 48 spot in Chestnut Hill after BC had a 10-0 lead. They then get outscored 48-14 to Les Miles and the Jayhawks. You would think Adazio will have these guys ready.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, KT. I mean, I'll take BC and play them off that shocking. I mean, they failed to cover the spread by 6 touchdowns last week. Usually I like to play on teams after that kind of a shocking outcome. And look, that good performance Rutgers had, we can throw that in the trash now, considering how really bad UMass is. I think the truth of Rutgers is more what we saw in week 2 when they got shut out 30-0 to Iowa. I think BC controls matters here. That's the only way to go for me.
Yeah, Rutgers gives up 5.5 a carry. Few teams run the ball like BC does in college football. I like the -8. I also like the under.
There you go. One more game before we take our 2-minute break here in hour number 1. That'll be Western Michigan, who comes off lambasting Georgia State. Cost me a 4-team money line parlay. USC, BYU, they were in overtime, so I didn't have a chance to hedge. Didn't know the conclusion of that game and had BYU on the money line along with Temple and Air Force. So those came in. But then I took Georgia State. They were right there. It was 17-10. Next thing you know, 56-10 or whatever it ended up. Western Michigan rolled. Now Western Michigan, the Broncos go to Syracuse. The Cuse coming off getting pummeled themselves on their own carpet by Clemson, as Clemson goes in there, not only gets the win, but then they cover the game inside the final minute with a long touchdown. The Cuse -4.5, 66 the total. It's a Syracuse team. Tommy DeVito, he needs to stay upright. He's thrown 4 interceptions already. Probably rely on Mo Neal and Abdul Adams out of the backfield to get some continuity there. John Wasink, a pretty good quarterback. He's been throwing it around for the Broncos for a while and has a darn good tight end in Ricci. Bussell, pretty good receiver as well. Brad, what about it? Western Michigan going to catch 4.5, total 66 from the Cuse.
Yeah, it seems like a fishy line. I mean, it really seems short in my opinion. I mean, only 4.5. But with that being said, I'm going to lay it with Syracuse. I mean, I think after back-to-back blowout losses, they need to get a bounce-back win here. I do like what I saw with Western Michigan, particularly last week, but I'll go with the orange here. I trust Dino Babers to get his team back up.
Yeah, baby, rocking and rolling on the Friday football fiasco. Ken Thomson, G. Sharp, live at the Gossett Stadium. Brad Powers joining us on the pregame.com celebrity guest line. We're rolling through college football right now. Just a quick update, just in case you have Florida International plus the points. They just got in the end zone inside the final minute, 36-31 now. Louisiana Tech's lead down to 5. That's important as La Tech a 7-point favorite. Keep an eye on the other 2 games. Boise State 23-13, 6-11 now to go at home against Air Force. 21-17 USC leading Utah as the fourth quarter underway. From Southern Cal, and we will continue rolling as far as through the college football. By the way, we are the only show that I know of that in a short period of time like this, in a 2-hour span, that we actually crunch in all these games, give you little tidbits on all these games, and we roll on through, and we'll roll on through to the NFL games, the 15 games. Thursday night game, of course, last night in Jacksonville, taking care of business on the home field behind Gardner Minshew. Got to watch him excel at Washington State. Right now, we pick it up with Ball State and North Carolina State, and Drew Pitt doing a pretty nice job for Ball State, throwing over 1,000 yards, 11 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. Has a couple good key components with Riley Miller and Antoine Davis making receptions, 27 receptions and 5 touchdowns there. For NC State, you lose a guy like Ryan Finley, always tough to replace him, but Matthew McKay's done a pretty good job, over 700 yards, 3 touchdowns, and Zonovan Knight has been outstanding as far as rushing that football for the Pack, and Amizi pretty good as far as receiving it. So in the game, we expected North Carolina State to be a pretty good favorite. In the game, as I look at the line, they are laying 19.5, 58.5 from Raleigh, Brad.
Yeah, line's right on. Believe it or not, KT, I use my power rating to the 100th of a point, and it's right on exactly on the number here. So I don't see too much value. I think NC State certainly wants to atone for that terrible performance at West Virginia last week. And, Ball State, I got to think Mike New, the head coach at this point, this is what, year 4, year 5? He's got to be starting to be on the hot seat a little bit. They've never gotten over the hump here. This is an important stretch. After this game for Ball State, they got to be competitive in the MAC this year, in my opinion. But I'm passing on this one.
Yeah, KT, I lean under 58.5 on this one.
All right, now one of the big games, and it'll be a big game at my house, that's for sure. Wife raised just outside of Madison, Wisconsin, and I've gone back for a couple of those big games at Camp Randall. This will be a big one tomorrow. Now, the weather could come into play, 42% chance of rain. They expect some rain, so 77 degrees or 73 degrees is what they're calling for as far as temperature. Jack Cohn's done an outstanding job, but Wisconsin's only played South Florida and Central Michigan, but they've done a nice job in those 2 games. Jonathan Taylor has 5 touchdowns on the ground, 3 via the airwaves. This guy looks just about unstoppable. Meanwhile, USC has stopped Utah again inside the 5-yard line on 2 successive plays. It is a 4th and goal for the Utes. 21-17 Southern Cal leads early stages of the 4th quarter. We keep an eye on that game there. Michigan comes a-calling, and Michigan was a favorite, a better-sized favorite prior to the season starting, but they struggled with Army last week after taking care of business against Middle Tennessee in a game that they looked rather lethargic, but went through the motions, probably looking forward to the Army game, and then they struggled. They win the game 24-21. Charbonnet has not done a bad job out of the backfield. Again, they lost 2 key rushers from that offense last year. Tariq Black, Ronnie Bell, not a bad job receiving the football. They're going to need a good defensive stand there in Wisconsin to try and slow down Taylor. But again, Wisconsin has only played South Florida and Central Michigan. Brad, what about it? Wisconsin minus 3.5, 44.5 from Madison.
Yeah, I'm going to lean KT on Michigan here plus the 3.5. I just think for the last 2 weeks, I think Wisconsin's getting a little too much love. Who in the hell have they played? South Florida's really bad, KT. And let's face it, Central Michigan's not very good either. 110-0, that's all I've heard. And then on the other side, all I hear is, how Michigan struggled against Army, and rightfully so. Jim Harbaugh should get criticized for that one. But I think, especially getting the hook here, I'm willing to give a shot on the Michigan team. Looks like they're going to get their tackle back running. He's missed the first couple games. Donovan Peoples-Jones, questionable. If he plays, then I really like Michigan because I think he's a really good wide receiver. I lean Michigan here.
Yeah, I like Michigan as well, but I also like the under. First half, full game. The over. First half, full game. I think there's a lot of points scored in this game. I think that Wisconsin defense has a lot of injuries. They're not going to be able to match up with those big wide receivers, especially if DPJ plays. And this Michigan defense is not the same it has been the last few years. They're not going to be able to stop Jonathan Taylor. I think this game scores 50, 55 points.
There you go. Wow, if it does that, even in the rain, going to be a lot of fun. Now, Brad, you will not be welcome at the house while that game is on. If you're pulling there for Michigan, Christina just won't have it there. We'll all be wearing Badger red early. It's a 9 a.m. kickoff out west, and I've been there for those 11 a.m. local kickoffs right there in Madison. Should be a good one. That game starts everything off tomorrow morning, I believe, on ESPN. Toledo and maybe an ABC game. Toledo and Colorado State. Bad news for Colorado State. Their quarterback, Colin Hill, is out, and that's just a major blow to the boys. And so Patrick O'Brien will step in now, but Colin Hill was actually winging the ball around pretty good. Gadani's actually back for Toledo. Toledo favored by 9 on the road as that line has gone up with the confirmation that Hill will be out. And that's just tough. Colorado State really was in that game against Arkansas on the road, and then Hill goes down. Brad, it's a tough loss for the Rams over there from Fort Collins. They are at home in the altitude, catching 9, 66 to total.
Yeah, I think the market adjusted too much. I think overreaction. I mean, Colin Hill's good, but, I mean, to me, this line is adjusting nearly a touchdown off of his injury, and that's just too much. I think Patrick O'Brien, I mean, he's had experience even dating back to last year. But, Toledo, I'd like to do in-game here because I think we've seen this from other teams, the Midwest and the East Coast teams. They travel out west. It's a super late start time. And I'm wondering, and in the altitude, to add into that, KT, I'm wondering if Toledo, wears down in the second half. I'll be looking for a Colorado State second half ticket here.
Yeah, people forget that Patrick O'Brien was a top 100 recruit for the Nebraska Cornhuskers. That's a big deal in a game like this. I like the over. I like the over 6-7 in this game, KT. I think both offenses can score quite a few points.
Meanwhile, Utah settles for a field goal, and it is 21-20 right now as the Utes kick off, and Southern Cal starts at about their own 27-yard line, fourth quarter action there. Next game on the docket as we move on down here, and I scroll down just a little too far. It is going to be, here we go, New Mexico State and New Mexico. Brad, didn't know if Bob Davies going to be back for this one. I know he did not make the trip to South Bend last week. New Mexico, they got pummeled. Now they're going to go with Tuioti at quarterback in this game. We'll also see New Mexico State. They'll stay with Josh Adkins. So an in-state battle in the game. New Mexico in Albuquerque, -4.5, a total of 70. JD, I'll start with you on this one.
Yeah, New Mexico State in this one, KT. I don't think that New Mexico has the offense to compete with New Mexico State.
Brad?
Yeah, Bob Davies won't be back until next week. That's the latest I heard, September the 28th for Bob Davies' return. The money's come in on New Mexico State. I think it's the right side here. I lean with the Aggies, and I think it's going to be a really close game that goes down to the wire.
There you go. Aggies have played a very tough schedule, but New Mexico, of course, going to South Bend, but New Mexico State had to go to Tuscaloosa. So we'll see how that one pans out. Right now, it is the Lobos, -4.5, total of 70 from Albuquerque. BYU, Washington. This should be a good one. It is Washington now up to 6.5 in Provo, 51.5 the total. Washington, of course, that early blemish in the weather-delayed game in Seattle against Cal, lose to Cal for the second time in 2 years. Jacob Easton's done a pretty adequate job there for Chris Peterson, throwing 7 touchdowns, 1 pick. Ahmed and Newton out of the backfield have all done their jobs. Hunter Bryant, tight end, outstanding. And then Fuller and Basella, those two guys receiving the balls from Jacob Easton. The defense has stepped up a little bit. The secondary, though, has done the bulk of the work. Kyler Manu, linebacker, has done a good job with 17 tackles, but Bryant, Gordon, Taylor, and Molden, those 4 guys are 4 of the 5 leading tacklers. They all play in the secondary for Washington, so that's concerning a little bit when your secondary is making that many tackles. For BYU, Zach Wilson, he's done his job. He's made some magical plays out of nothing. Tyson Williams, pretty solid so far out of the backfield, the transfer from South Carolina. Simon, Bushman, Romney, excellent receivers. They've caught 30 balls, but they haven't gotten into pay dirt yet, so we'll see if BYU can get them some action there and get across the goal line. Fanua, 30 tackles already from his linebacking position. Brad, I'll start with you. Washington right now laying 6.5 in Provo, 51.5 the total.
Yeah, I'm on Washington here. I just don't think it's a good spot. I mean, BYU's off back-to-back outright upsets in overtime, and I thought they were fortunate to win both games. I mean, the Tennessee game, if you believe in in-game win probabilities, they're at 1% chance to win the game with 30 seconds left, where they got that humongous long pass to set up the game-tying field goal. And even last week, I mean, they were +3 in turnovers against Keaton Slovis and the Trojans. So I think that played obviously a major factor in their upset win there. I just, when BYU plays these teams that are buttoned up, Washington, in my opinion, is good defense, solid special teams, better coach, better athletes, similar to what BYU faced against Utah. I just think Washington goes in there and takes care of business, much like what they did against BYU a year ago. I see the Huskies by double digits here.
Yeah, I like Washington -6.5. Just much better athletes across the board. I don't think Zach Wilson has any more of that Manziel-esque magic in him. If I think that doing a 6-team teaser with the under and Washington would be a very, very smart play here.
There you go, 6-point teaser there. Brad doesn't dabble into those teasers in college football too much. The pros, yes, but not the college, as they don't come into play nearly as much. BYU, though, catching 6.5 at home, 51.5. Herm Edwards guys right now are riding high as they come off with that nice win in East Lansing against Michigan State, where their defense really stepped up. Jaden Daniels did his best work, the young freshman quarterback, down the stretch. Benjamin's been okay at times out of the backfield. Ayuk, their best receiver, replacing N'Keal Harry, which is not easy to do. Steven Montez, he's thrown the ball pretty well, but struggled against the force. K.D. Nixon, Tony Brown, Laviska Shenault, of course, is their main weapon. So you got a trio of receivers that are pretty good. Brad, what about at Colorado going to ASU right now? The Sun Devils minus 8.5, 48.5.
Yeah, I agree with the line move here. I'm just not a big fan of Colorado this year. I think they're kind of a phony 2-1 team. They've been outgained in all their games, and even last week, I give them credit. I mean, they forced overtime. I mean, they've been a good fourth quarter team so far this season. But, I mean, I thought Air Force controlled that game much more than the final would indicate. And I got to be impressed with Jaden Daniels. I thought he was really up against it last week. I know the stats don't look that great, but, I mean, he made the play of the year for Arizona State so far this season, getting that first down on that scramble on 4th and 13 when it looked like, ASU was dead in the water there. My power ratings are pretty strong on Arizona State here. I don't think the situation, though, is great. Just a lean on ASU here.
Yeah, I lean Colorado here, Ken. I don't believe that Arizona State has the offense to score a lot of points. And, I mean, I don't care who they're facing. I just don't think they can score a lot of points. And they scored 19 against Sacramento State for a reason. I like Colorado 7 out of that. I think they're still going to score 20 points at least in this game.
All right, next game, California. They go to Oxford. They'll take on Ole Miss. Right now, the Rebels minus 2.5, total 42. Chase Garbers will lead Cal. Of course, they have that big win already over Washington. Chris Brown and Marcel Dancy out of the backfield. These guys have been solid. For Mississippi, Matt Corral will try and take care of business here. He's got 4 touchdown passes on the young season. Now, they played Memphis. That was a tough loss, 15-10. Then they beat Arkansas and Southeast Louisiana. Brad, what about it? The boys from Oxford, they're at home, minus 2.5, 42 the total against Cal, SEC Pac-12 matchup.
Very intriguing handicap because, I mean, situationally, I think you got to lean Ole Miss here. I mean, it's an early start time, a 9 a.m. start time as far as the body clocks for Cal. Unique trip to the heat and humidity for Cal to Ole Miss there, but I'm not sure I can trust. I really don't trust either team. I guess by far the best unit on the field is Cal's defense, but Ole Miss was, I thought, pathetic last week against Southeast Louisiana. When it's all said and done, I'll trust that Cal defense to get one more stop than Ole Miss. I'll take the Bears.
Yeah, KT, I like the under 41 in this game.
All right, there you go. Right now you can get 42, down from 44.5. Tennessee and Florida. This will be a SEC rivalry game that Florida going in with a lot of confidence, although they did lose their quarterback. Never good to do that, but somehow they got a miracle push or cover last week in Kentucky after Franks went down. Kyle Trask, 13 of 18, 166 yards and a touchdown pass. Taking care of business. P. Ryan out of the backfield, pretty solid. They're still going to be without receiver Kadarius Toney, but they've got Josh Howard, who's done a pretty good job, Van Jefferson as well, and a Florida defense that can get after it, but they are a little bit banged up. And Zuniga, a little banged up himself. C.J. Henderson, their corner, is also hurting, but they've got a fine linebacking core with Reese and Greenard and Miller. So let's look at Tennessee now with Guarantano. He's got to get something going on the offensive side of the ball with Jennings and Callaway, 2 pretty good receivers, Chandler and Gray out of the backfield. JD, I'll start with you on this one. Tennessee catching 14 at Florida, 48.5.
So this is a game I'm actually playing myself. I like Tennessee plus 14. I think they can actually win this game. Guarantano has a roughly 70% completion percentage. They're good against the pass, and they don't have significantly worse athletes than Florida does. And this line is definitely inflated because of how their season has gone. I love Tennessee here.
Brad?
Yeah, when you got a rivalry game here, a big underdog, and you got the better quarterback, I'm with JD here. I'll take Tennessee here.
All right, big play as Utah got a first down, but they got called for holding. And then you have intentional grounding in the end zone, a safety. So Southern Cal's 1-point lead of 21-20 is now 23-20, and Utah will have to kick the ball back to Southern Cal with about 7 minutes, I believe, left in that game in regulation. As I look up, it's actually 8:55, 23-20 Southern Cal, 30-19 Boise State, 2:27 to go, leading Air Force, and it is a final. La Tech scored late after Florida International had scored to look like they were going to get the cover. La Tech gets a late cover, 43-31, the final in that game from Ruston. Ken Thomson, Brad Powers, J.D. Sharp, as we finish up, got about a minute and a half to get one more game in here, and we'll duck it in as I'm trying to get back to the place. Okay, so we're getting, go ahead, J.D., what's the game that we're on?
It's Georgia State, Texas State.
There you go, old Georgia State with Dan Ellington, the quarterback, and they're the ones that cost me against Western Michigan. They got their doors blown off in the second half of that game. They'll take on a Texas State team that is averaging 1.14 yards per carry. Gresh Jensen, their quarterback, leads the way, but it's been a tough go of it for the Bobcats trying to score. Brad, what about it? Bobcats are actually, I believe, laying 3 in this game. I'm trying to get back to the line. They're either catching 3 or laying 3. I'm trying to memorize that game. Let me go back.
Yeah, they're laying 3, and it's actually the first time they've been favored over an FBS opponent in a couple of years, Texas State. So with that being said, I'm going to take the underdog Georgia State here plus the 3. I just think that those are better the two teams. In fact, I think there's a good chance Georgia State wins this game outright.
Ken, I literally know nothing about either team.
Oh, Georgia State, they were able to take out Tennessee in their opener. Texas State -3. The total is 63, and that's going to do it for hour number 1. I'll run down the scores. When we come back, we'll pick it up with game 359-360, Southern Miss in Tuscaloosa to take on Alabama and Nick Saban's guys. So as we go back up and check on some of these scores, 6-0, the A's now have opened it up. That lead top of the 7th at the Oakland Alameda County Coliseum. Fires pitching the shutout against Texas. Minor knocked out there for the Rangers. A 2-0 lead still for Arizona at Petco in San Diego. That game now bottom 6. And Colorado's lead once 4-1, now 4-3. Dodgers still batting in the bottom half of the 4th. The total in that game, 8.5, already 7 runs. So you have a good chance to get the over. Southern Cal, by the way, has the ball back on their own 36-yard line as they look to expand on a 23-20 lead. And again, 30-19, Boise State leading Air Force. That line went from 10 to 7.5, but right now the guys on the blue carpet, they're taking care of business, and we'll see if they can close that game out. When you get here to Legacy Stadium, don't forget your first glass of One Hope Chardonnay, One Hope Cabernet, or your first Bud Light draft on the house. Just mention KDWN, SportsX Radio, or Ken Thomson. We are live from Vegas on the new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDWN. All those in town for the Life is Beautiful concert or for any other reason. Enjoy yourselves. Leave the driving to the great cab system, the limos, Uber, Lyft, whatever. No need to risk drinking and driving. Keep our streets safe here in Las Vegas. We're live from Vegas. We'll be right back live from Legacy Stadium. Ken Thomson, Brad Powers, J.D. Sharp. You're listening to the Friday Football Fiasco, SportsX Radio. Yeah, KT live, SportsX Radio rolling at you. Friday Football Fiasco live at beautiful Legacy Stadium right here inside the beautiful Venetian Palazzo. And Friday is a very busy show. Brad Powers on the pregame.com celebrity guest line. He's normally here in studio. J.D. Sharp is here in studio with me. And Legacy Stadium, it is the creme de la creme. There is not a better sports bar in the entire country. For reservations, especially for football season, 702-607-2665, 702-607-2665. Doors are open tomorrow, probably right around between 8:30, 8:45. They'll get the sports book open and ready, and then come on in here and enjoy yourselves. And if you're staying here on property, you know you got to get up early and get on down here, but try and make reservations. And then Sunday, forget about it. On Pro Football Sunday, you got to make sure you make reservations, even for that Sunday night game. Monday night, it's a great venue. I'm here on Monday nights as well, and Thursday nights. Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, you can find SportsX Radio here. And it is a sports fan's paradise. There's no doubt. It's the best venue to be right here when you come to Las Vegas. It is a bucket list item. And even if you, don't come here for the games and you want to take in lunch or dinner, it's a great venue to enjoy yourselves. And the nightlife here at the Venetian Palazzo, top of the line with the Town Nightclub, Electra Cocktail Club, Racina Cocktail Lounge, and the Dorsey Cocktail Car, all part of the Cocktail Collective here at the Venetian Palazzo. And the rooms creme de la creme, the best in the business, and it doesn't get much nicer than that. We are rolling on through the college football, finishing up things at a rapid pace. So again, if you miss any of the show, go back, sportsxradio.com, the archives up and rolling audio-wise at about midnight tonight Pacific time. Pick it up with Southern Miss in Alabama. Brad Powers, J.D. Sharp are with me. Bama favored by 38 big ones at home in Tuscaloosa, 61.5. But that's down a little bit. That's because some money coming in on Southern Miss, a Southern Miss team that can score some points. Brad, I'm going to throw it to you. This Alabama team, how interested are they in this game? And Southern Miss does have Quez Watkins back, fine receiver that was suspended for the first 2 games. He's already got 7 receptions, 209, and 2 touchdowns. And Jack Abraham can wing that ball pretty good. We know Najee Harris outstanding, and Smith, Judy, Ruggs, and Waddle, best receiving core in the country. Your take on this one?
I'm on Southern Miss. I like Southern Miss. I think they can fully capable of getting a back door cover, even if they're getting crushed early. And look, Alabama, when they're laying 35 or more, 6-17 against the spread last 8 years. Sleepy start time, I think, 11 a.m. local kick. I like Southern Miss here.
Yeah, I'm confused why this over-under is only 61.5. You have a very good Southern Miss offensive team. They're not good against the pass, and you have Alabama, who has probably the best wide receivers in the last 2 or 3 years in college football. I like Southern Miss here as well. I think, and Tua, he's 49. He has 49 touchdowns and 1 interception against unranked opponents since his career started. I think he has an interesting game tomorrow. I like Southern Miss.
Line agrees with you. It's gone from 59.5 up to 61.5. Alabama favored 38. Kentucky, they're at Mississippi State. Sawyer Smith still running the show as far as quarterback for the guys that let one get away last week in Lexington. Missed a chip shot field goal, and then Florida actually ends up covering a lot of lines and pushing for some people and even putting the total over for most people, although the opening total was 50.5. The game finished at 50. Kavasier Smoke and Asim Rose out of the backfield, pretty solid. Lynn Bowden Jr., no doubt, is a talent as far as receiving core, and now Smith pressed into duty with the loss of Wilson. Mississippi State, Tommy Stevens was listed as questionable. We know that Hill can flat out pick him up, put him down for the Bulldogs, and they're in Starkville. They're a team that can definitely take care of business, although they come off a loss as well. Mississippi State minus 647.5. What about it, Brad?
I'm on the over here. The 2 teams are combined 6-0 to the over so far this season. I think the over is the play here.
Yeah, KT, I like Mississippi State minus 6.5. They just have better athletes. I kind of think the game goes under, but I like Mississippi State more.
All right, we'll see how this one pans out. Meanwhile, LSU and Vandy, a solid LSU team, laying 24 big ones, 62.5 in Nashville. And Brad will talk about the venue not being the best home field advantage. Joe Burrow's been outstanding. 83% of his passes have been completed, 75 of 90. Clyde Edwards-Helaire doing the bulk of the work out of the backfield, but Justin Jefferson and Terrace Marshall, these 2 guys, 1,122 yards, 11 touchdowns. Boy, these guys have been solid. Your take on this, Brad, because Joe Burrow, he's in that Heisman conversation already.
But I think this is way too expensive on LSU. I mean, keep in mind, Georgia just traveled to Vanderbilt a couple weeks ago and was laying 21. I think Georgia's better than LSU. I'll take the Commodores coming in off a bye here.
I have LSU as my top team in the country right now, and we've been talking about this for a while. But, yeah, Terrace Marshall's a 5-star. Jamar Chase is a top 100 guy. Justin Jefferson's actually a 2-star. Burrow's a 5-1 to win the Heisman. They have a ton of talent defensively. I could see them winning this game by 30+. I like LSU minus 24.
There you go. Meanwhile, Mac Brown's boys back home in Chapel Hill to take on an Appalachian State team that's well coached, there's no doubt, and a team that, despite losing Satterfield, still continues to excel. Zach Thomas, their quarterback, 5 touchdowns, no picks, and Evans out of the backfield, 333 yards and 3 touchdowns. Threes are wild there. Sam Howell, the freshman for UNC, has done a good job, 6 touchdowns, has yet to throw a pick. Williams and Carter doing their job as well, and Diami Brown doing his job with 3 touchdowns via the airwaves. North Carolina at home, minus 2.5, 58. Some money coming in on the Mountaineers from Boone, North Carolina, Brad.
Yeah, I agree with the move here. I just think it's a bad spot for North Carolina off 3 straight, close games that went down to the final possession. App State comes in fresh off a bye. You got to think they circled this one in-state rivalry here. I like App State.
Totally agree. Appalachian State +3.
All right, so both guys are on that. Next game, a big one, as the boys from College Station are back home And this is a big-time matchup against Auburn. And Bo Nix, the freshman quarterback, has been outstanding. Found a way to pull out that Oregon game at Jerry's house. He'll rely on Boobie Whitlow out of the backfield. And Joey Gatewood, very solid quarterback as well, battled Nix prior to the season, and he's come in there and he gives them a different look. He can really run that football as well. They still have Cam Martin in that backfield as well. Stove and Hastings, pretty good receivers. For A&M, Kellen Mond comes off a tough game a couple weeks ago at Death Valley against Clemson, but he's a guy that's a veteran, but he'll need now Isaiah Spiller, the youngster in the backfield, to pick things up. He has 246, 2 touchdowns on the ground. It's Osmond and Rogers, his two favorite receivers. Buddy Johnson, solid linebacker, him and Anthony Hines a third. Those two guys will anchor that defense for Jimbo Fisher. It's going to be a good one. Bo Nix, his dad, Patrick Nix, when he was quarterbacking at Auburn, Jimbo Fisher, the coach of Texas A&M, was actually the quarterback's coach at Auburn at the time. Brad, this is going to be a solid game. Texas A&M right now in College Station with the 12th man, -4, 47.5.
Yeah, I'm on A&M here, KT. A&M 16-4 against the spread of the last 20 games. Revenge here. They blew the game against Auburn a year ago, a 10-point lead late in the fourth quarter. I just trust A&M a little bit more in this spot.
Yeah, I like A&M -4 here, KT. They've got 4 good wide receivers. They have an experienced quarterback against Bo Nix on the road. Auburn's been covering every game in the last 4 games. I think it stops here. I think A&M wins this game by 10+.
All right, Wyoming on the road against Tulsa. Tulsa -3.5 at home, 45.5 the total. Sean Chambers hasn't thrown a touchdown pass, but he's run for a couple. Trey Smith out of the backfield has 3 touchdowns on the ground. It's a Wyoming team under Craig Bohl that just finds ways to win games they probably shouldn't. Zach Smith for Tulsa. They have a couple losses to Michigan State and Oklahoma State. Got a win in between. Shamari Brooks, he can rush. He's got 247 yards on the ground, and Zach Smith has thrown for 3 touchdowns. Brad, your take. Tulsa, the boys at home, -3.5. And they played the Pokes pretty tough there last week, but Oklahoma State a big second half to put them away.
Yeah, I'm on Tulsa. I think Wyoming's the most overrated 3-0 team in the country. They've been outgained in every game so far this season. And that's coming even last week against a pathetic Idaho team. So I'm going to be on Tulsa here. They get a bounce-back win. They win by about a touchdown.
Hey, KT, I lean under here. A lot of field goals in this game.
All right, South Carolina and Ryan Helinski off the pasting by Alabama, although South Carolina did cover that line if you took 25. 61's the total here. Missouri in Columbia, favored 9.5, as both these teams hail from the city of Columbia. But the boys from South Carolina, they're at Mizzou to take on Kelly Bryant and the Tigers. Larry Roundtree and Tyler Beatty, these two guys, nearly 500 yards, 6 touchdowns on the ground. And the big tight end, Albert Akwegbunam.
That was very good.
7 receptions, 3 of those for touchdowns. He's one of the better tight ends in the country. Alberto, we call him here. Brad, what about it? Missouri's favored 9.5, 61. Is that too many points to give the Gamecocks, or is that the right number?
No, I'm going to lay it. I just think South Carolina off an emotional game against Alabama. I watched that game. They gave everything they had. Obviously, far short, but I think outside of that misleading final against Wyoming in Week 1, Missouri's the real deal here. I'll take the Tigers.
Yeah, I like Missouri as well. South Carolina's got, I think Shai Smith is kind of hurt. They're actually really good against the pass. Bryant has the targets. I like the under 63.5, and I like Missouri.
Yeah, Shai Smith a little banged up. He and Brian Edwards, 28 receptions between them so far. West Virginia off a nice home win. They'll be at Kansas, who, as we said, broke that 48-game road losing streak. Carter Stanley doing a nice job up there in Chestnut Hill. Herbert and Puka Williams, good combination there in the backfield. 577 yards and 3 touchdowns. Parchment, outstanding receiver. Austin Kendall able to wing that ball around for West Virginia. And Sam James, he's a pretty good wideout, has 20 receptions on the year already for the Mountaineers. West Virginia on the road, favored 4.5 in Lawrence. 49 the total, Brad.
KT, I'm on West Virginia here. I just trust them a little bit more in this spot. Although it's an intriguing handicap, both teams off outright upsets here. I just think West Virginia's players at least know how to win and handle their business here. I trust them. I'll take the Mountaineers.
KU, I like Kansas here. They're pretty decent in their secondary. West Virginia can't really run the ball. Kansas can run the ball. I like Kansas +4. I think they win the game, and I like Les Miles here.
All right, Utah got a field goal, but SC running the clock out right now. They have a 2nd and 1 with a little over 2 minutes to go at the Coliseum. The Utes down to 2 timeouts. SC playing an outstanding game after losing Slovis, their quarterback, 3rd play into the game. And Got to give it to Matt Fink stepping up right there and taking care of business for the Trojans. Next game on the docket, we've got Oklahoma State is at Texas, and this is one where Oklahoma State has won the last 4 in this series, and they have a quarterback, Spencer Sanders. It's really stepped up and done a nice job. Chuba Hubbard, over 500 yards, 7 touchdowns on the ground, and Tylan Wallace has 6 via the airwaves. This is a good, solid Okie State team looking to take care of business again against the guys from Austin. Sam Ellinger's thrown for 11 touchdowns, no interceptions. He's rushed for another one. Ingram out of the backfield, pretty solid. They do get Colin Johnson back. That's key to help out Duvernay and Eagles. We'll see how this game pans out. Texas trying to break a 4-game losing streak against Okie State. They had this one last year, let it get away. Brad, your take on this one. Texas right now up to a touchdown even, 72.5 the total from Austin.
Yeah, a lot of money came in on Texas today, KT. I agree with it. It's closer now to my power ratings. I just think I trust Sam Ellinger. You mentioned it in a big game. I mean, this is a guy that set the Big 12 record last year for consecutive passes without or pass attempts without an interception. He's already off to a good start this year. Sanders is a big-time road game here. I like Texas here to break the losing streak against the Pokes.
Yeah, lean Texas. I think Sam Ellinger has the most live, strongest arm in college football. I think they just have much better athletes, especially in the secondary. Chuba Hubbard doesn't really impress me. I like Texas here. All
right, Bowling Green, Brad's alma mater with Darius Wade, the transfer from Boston College, looking to go into Kent and take care of business against the Golden Flashes, who go with Dustin Crum right now at quarterback. Woody Barrett getting banged up in that opener. Isaiah McCoy doing a nice job receiving that football, and Joel Shaw doing a good job running the ball for Kent State. They played a pretty nice game offensively for a while at Auburn, and they also went out west and took on Arizona State. So a tough schedule for Kent State. They are an 11.5-point favorite, Brad, against your alma mater. 62.5 the total. Money has come in on Kent State.
Yeah, I mean, it's the first double-digit favorite role for Kent State against an FBS opponent in 4 years. Too many points here. I'm on my alma mater here, plus 11.5.
You know, KT, that's a pass for me. Brad convinced me to take Bowling Green against Kansas State 2 weeks ago, and they lost 52-0, so I just can't touch it.
That is great. All right, SMU at TCU, and Sonny Dykes and company going to try and break a streak against TCU. TCU minus 855 the total here. A TCU team whose quarterbacks, Duggan and Delton, really don't complete many passes. Anderson, pretty solid out of the backfield. Wallow, their linebacker, has 23 tackles and a couple sacks already, leads that team and led them last week in West Lafayette against Purdue. Boilermakers had to go with a backup quarterback. Shane Buechele, the transfer from Texas, has done a great job, and Xavier Jones already 7 touchdowns on the ground for the Ponies. What about it? SMU catching 8 now. This line continues to drop, 55 the total from Fort Worth, Brad.
I'm on the favorite. I mean, I'll fade the line move here. I mean, let's just be real. I know SMU's 3-0 for the first time since '84, but I mean, this is a lot of respect for an SMU team that's lost 6 straight to TCU by 31 points per game. I'm on the Horned Frogs here.
KT, I like the over here. I like the over 55.5. I think both teams can score a little bit.
All right, I'm going to see if Sonny Dykes and the guys can't get a cover. That'll be an interesting game. Next game on the docket, San Jose State traveling down to take on Arkansas, and the Hogs keep going back and forth between 20 and 21. Right now sitting at 21, total of 61. Brennan will try and get the Spartans ready. Josh Love, pretty good quarterback, has yet to throw a pick. Nick Nash gets in there as well, and he'll run the ball from that quarterback position. Arkansas transfer from A&M, Nick Starkel getting the start now, and Rakeem Boyd, Devois Whaley out of the backfield, pretty good, and Knox a pretty good receiver. Arkansas, big-time 3-touchdown favorite. Brad, can they cover it against the Spartans?
I mean, they've been very inconsistent offensively. And a misleading final, in my opinion, last week. I just don't trust them here. To me, it's a complete pass.
Hey, KT, I lean under in this game, 60.
All right, South Alabama at UAB. Blazers minus 11 at home. UAB sees that total at 48. South Alabama played a good game against Nebraska in the opener. They've struggled since. Cephas Johnson, 4 interceptions so far for the Jags. UAB, Tyler Johnston III, he's doing what he can so far. Has thrown 5 touchdowns, rushed for another one. A couple good receivers in Watkins and Parham have 4 touchdowns between them for UAB. UAB at home minus 11, 48, Brad.
Yeah, I'm on UAB here. You look at them since they returned to action after they took a couple years off. Program was shut down. At home since 2017, 13-0 straight up, 10-2-1 against the number. I'll take them off of by the Blazers.
Yeah, lean under here, KT.
All right, under the total of 48. Oregon and Stanford, this game from Palo Alto, and Stanford coming off that pasting down there in Orlando against UCF. KJ Costello back at the helm like he was last week, but really didn't help out as they just dug themselves such a deep hole. It wasn't that they dug it. Central Florida dug it for them. Cameron Scarlett out of the backfield, 224 yards. Parkinson, pretty good tight end. They've got some players on defense, but just don't have the team speed that they had in years past. Therefore, Oregon and Herbert should be able to take care of business. Herbert's thrown for 11 touchdowns, no interceptions. Diver, Dell, and Felix out of the backfield, solid. And then you've got Johnny Johnson. You've got a tight end and senior Jacob Breland and Jalen Red also have done well. I'm looking at this Oregon team that they should be able to take care of business on the road, but Stanford, Shaw's team's going to give it their best shot. Right now, it's up to 10.5, 57.5.
Okay, I love Oregon here.
I'm on Stanford here. I mean, it's with a tough pill to swallow, but I just look at the Cardinal as a home underdog since late 2007. They're 9-0 against the spread. They've won 8 of those games outright as a home dog. Average covered by 2 touchdowns per game. And I think they're getting a little too disrespected here. I'll take the Cardinal.
Hey, Katie, I love Oregon here. I think that they have a lot of talent defensively, especially at cornerback. They've got the weapons at wide receiver to throw the ball to. Herbert's been playing very, very well. They have 2 running backs. Davis Mills is a true a redshirt freshman. I like Oregon -10.
There you go. All right, so JD, we'll get you the menu there, and then you can just point to something there because I know you want to get a dinner in here at Legacy Stadium, and why not, as we are rolling on through. Finishing up on the college docket here. Next game on the docket is Baylor and Rice. Baylor -26, total of 58 from Houston. A Rice team that, gave Army all they wanted early on. They're going with the transfer now from Harvard, Tom Stewart, who's thrown for 364 and 3 touchdowns. Baylor, Charlie Brewer, last I saw, they weren't sure how healthy he was going to be, but I expect Brewer to go. Brad, you'll let me know if he's going to be available. 6 touchdowns, no interceptions. Mims has caught 3 of those in 12 receptions. Right now, the line has Baylor 26, total of 58.
Yeah, he's going to go. What happened in their last game prior to the bye, the playing surface reached like 120 degrees, and he actually had some burns on his feet. So it was just precautionary that they took him out of that game. So he'll play here. It's just too much of a big spread for me to recommend the Bears here. I think it's a blowout, but I certainly don't want Rice here, so it's a total pass for me.
Baylor gives up 4 yards to carry on the ground. Rice can only run the ball. I like the under here, 58.
I got to give it to Southern Cal. They took care of business. A big win for Clay Helton. If he's going to keep his job, he needs wins like this. An outstanding win. Southern Cal, just an overtime loss away from the guys up in Provo from being undefeated, and this has got to be a tough pill to swallow for Kyle Whittingham. And that defense, as good as it's been built up to be, they struggled early out of the gate against Matt Fink, and Southern Cal gets a big win tonight at the Coliseum over the Utah Utes. 30-23 is the final. Texas San Antonio and North Texas, it is right now the mean green -18.5. 58 is the total, and boy, it's a North Texas team with Mason Fine at quarterback. Darden, pretty good receiver, has 18 receptions on the year. That'll take on a UTSA team that Frank Harris is a guy that he's a dual threat, and this guy can make things happen. I can see a lot of points being scored in this game. I like the over 58. North Texas -18.5. Brad, I'm not sold that the Road Runners may not be able to cover that game. Your take on North Texas? They played Cal tough on the road.
Yeah, they did. They lost by 6, and I can argue that it could have been even better than that. They outgained Cal, and after Cal jumped out to a 20-0 lead, Cal couldn't do anything offensively. Right now at the current number, I'd actually lean North Texas. I'm just not sure that UTSA can go score for score with them.
Know nothing about either team except Mason Fine's a pretty decent quarterback. I'm going to roll with KT's play and go with the over.
There you go. All right, Notre Dame and Georgia. Now, Brad's team is Notre Dame. They're in between the hedges. This line has gone from 13 up to 14.5, so gone over a key number of 14. Total is 57.5, down a half point. It's a Notre Dame team led by Ian Book, Tony Jones Jr. out of the backfield. Claypool, McKinley, not bad. Tremble's been doing the tight end work because Kmet has been banged up. Now, he was questionable last week. We thought he was going to go. He may go this week. We haven't gotten that confirmation as of yet. Jake Fromm, he just completes State's passes. 5 touchdowns, no interceptions, hands off to DeAndre Swift and anybody else that'll grab it. I mean, you've got White, McIntosh, Harrion. They're all capable of getting yards on the ground there for the Dogs. Pickens, Blaylock, Wolf, the tight end, pretty good receiving core, and the linebacking core led by Monty Rice is tough as well. Offensive line, one of the best in the country. Notre Dame, +6 in the turnover department. Doubt that continues down there in Athens, but Notre Dame catching 14.5. JD, I'll start with you because that's a lot of points to give the Irish.
It is a lot of points. I'm not going to touch the side. I do think that Notre Dame has one advantage with Chase Claypool, but there's a lot of advantage that Georgia has in this situation. I like the under 58. I think both passing defenses are very good, and Notre Dame gives up 38% to opposing quarterbacks right now.
Brad?
Yeah, 38% to who? New Mexico and Louisville? I mean, my thing is they can't. I mean, the teams aren't passing against Notre Dame because they're running for 230 yards per game, and I think Georgia, very capable of running for 300 yards on this undersized Notre Dame defensive line. I just think it's a bad matchup for the Irish. And I look at Georgia's last 15 home games. I mean, they've won by 31 points per game on average. All 15 wins by 14 points or more, 13 by 21 or more. If Notre Dame can't hang in there early, I think it gets ugly late. Give me Uga.
There you go. We'll see if you have better success going against your team than I had tonight. Didn't pan out for old KT, but what the heck? I'd rather the Trojans at least win and I don't get middled where Utah's laying 3.5, 4 points in that game. Southern Cal wins it 30-23. Louisville at Florida State, a Louisville team that's been competitive. Malik Cunningham went last game. Don't know if Jawan Pass will be ready to go for the Cardinals. Now, Satterfield coming over has done a nice job against the number. 16-3-1 in his last 20, but a lot of those, of course, with Appalachian State. Florida State, boy, they should have won that game at Virginia, but they let it get away, and that really hurts. I mean, there's not a lot being done right by head coach Willie Taggart. He can blame the offensive coordinator, but he's got to be able to make decisions as well. Jim Levity's brought in for defensive help. Blackman, Akers, they're going to do what they can do for the Noles to get a home win. Florida State -6.5, total 61, Brad.
Yeah, number seems a little light for me. I mean, I was impressed with Florida State's resolve last week. So, I mean, I didn't think they could hang with Virginia, and they certainly did. So, Louisville's improved, no question about it. They're 3-0 against the number under Satterfield so far, but this is a tall order to cover what I think is a little low of a spread here. I lean with the Noles.
Yeah, I like Florida State in a very, very sloppy game.
All right, the next game will bring the guys from up north, the Pack, under Coach Jay Norvell. Norvell's team 7-2 in their last 9 games dating back from last year. Carson Strong's done a nice job for yardage, but he's thrown 4 interceptions. Toa Tua out of the backfield and Kincaid. These two guys will try and get some yards on the ground at UTEP, where, boy, it's been a tough road to hoe for the Miners. 2-12 in their last 14 against the spread at the Sun Bowl, and they're going with Brandon Jones. Now, they had Kai Loxley. He was suspended, but he did get some action. But right now, Brandon Jones listed as the starter. Trayvon Hughes on the ground. We'll see what he can do. Right now, we're looking at this UTEP team catching a big bunch of points at home, 14 big ones, 51.5. It's actually down a half point, Brad.
Hey, you look at UTEP. I mean, they're 1-10 against the spread their last 11 home games. I haven't liked what I've seen so far from the Miners. I mean, they could have even lost to an FCS school. I trust Nevada here. I'll take the Wolfpack.
Total pass to me, KT.
All right, then UCLA at Wazoo. Washington State comes off the 7-point win at Houston last Friday night, so an extra day's rest. Anthony Gordon, 1,324 yards via the airways, 12 touchdowns, 2 picks. He's rushed for another 122. Max Borghi, this guy's been outstanding. Borghi is a guy that is a dual threat out of the backfield, like a little bowling ball. I mean, just love this guy. And when you have Winston and Patman, Martin, Harris, Fisher, all these guys can catch those passes. They've all gotten into pay dirt at least once for Wazoo. And Mike Leach's team, no question, they know how to put up points. Now, they did play New Mexico State, beat them 58-7. Northern Colorado, no test there, 59-17. And then at Houston, a closer game than a lot expected. So we'll see what UCLA can do with DTR, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, the quarterback, Felton and Kelly out of the backfield. Boy, it's a UCLA team, though, that's banged up on the defensive side of the ball. They're missing Barnes, their key linebacker, and that's going to hurt against a Wazoo team that opens it up quickly. I think Wazoo, Brad, probably pulls away late in this game. They're laying 18.5, 58 the total up in the Palouse.
Yeah, how does UCLA keep pace here? I mean, I haven't seen anything offensively to say that they can hold Washington State down enough where their offense is going to score enough points to cover. I'm on the Cougars here, even though it seems like a very square play.
Yeah, I want to take UCLA because it seems like I should definitely do that, but they can't run the ball, they can't pass the ball, they can't defend the pass. Washington State is extremely good at passing the ball, and they have a pretty underrated defense. How can you not take Washington State here? And again, it is a square play.
All right, there you go. The final game on the college docket, Division I game, and the Aggies on the road, -4, 53.5. San Diego State, not a dog too often in the conference, unless it's against Boise State when they are at home. Ryan Agnew, inconsistent quarterback, but has had some decent flashes this season. Washington's been banged up, missed last game out of the backfield, but Jordan Bird has stepped up nicely and filled in. Chase Jasmine actually got back 5 carries last week as well, so trying to get back into the mix. Jordan Love, he can wing that ball around the field for Utah State. And Gerald Bright and Jalen Warren, these guys have combined for 5 touchdowns on the ground. And then Mariner and Tompkins, already 20 receptions between themselves. Also, Fossum and Cooks, these two guys waiting to get into action, and we'll see how things pan out for actually, I'm sorry, Fossum and Cooks over there for Nevada, but Mariner and Tompkins, those two guys there for Utah State, are looking to do the bulk of the work for the Aggies. And, Brad, it's weird to see San Diego State as a dog at home inside the Mountain West unless it's against Boise State. What's your take here? Utah State -4, 53.5 the total.
Yeah, it hasn't happened too often. I mean, this is only the 5th time since, mid-2013, so about 6 years. This is the 5th, and previous 4 times that San Diego State's been a home dog, they've covered all 4. They've won all 4 outright. I don't have enough data points, I think, on Utah State, only 2, and 1 was against an FCS opponent. They do come in off a bye. I'm not sure it's a great matchup for San Diego State, but my power ratings say the Aztecs are the play here, and that's where I'm going here. I'll take San Diego State plus the 4.
Yeah, KT, I like the over 54.
Over 54. All right, that's going to do it as far as the college. We'll take one more little break. By the way, we did let you know that Tuiati is starting for New Mexico. For North Texas, Rico Bussey is out, one of their leading receivers. Defensive back Aaron Maddox out for Colorado. That'll hurt the Buffs in the secondary. Moving on down, just trying to check on some of these key injuries. You've got Williams, the left tackle for Florida State, looking like he is going to miss. Also, we told you Kyle Trask is in for Felipe Franks. Moving on down, I'm just trying to make sure I don't miss any of the key ones for you. Zane Anderson, check and see if he's going to go at middle linebacker for BYU. He's listed as questionable right now. Auburn, Seth Williams, their receiver, questionable, as is free safety Smoke Monday. He is actually suspended for the first half for targeting. For Bama, LeBrian Ray, defensive end, he is doubtful with a foot injury. And also his backup is out as well, Alfano, because of academics. So Bama a little bit banged up there. They're already without Moses and McMillan as far as linebackers. And Todd Harris, defensive back, is out for the year now for LSU. And also Chason looks like he may miss as well for the Bayou Bengals tomorrow. As Brad told you, Donovan Peoples-Jones is questionable there for Michigan from the wideout position. Let me see on down. That is pretty much it. We'll wait and see if Kmet goes for Notre Dame as far as from the cornerback position. Jake Hansen for Oregon, their center, is questionable. And Rutgers, we already told you their quarterback, McLean Carter, probably going to miss. Bryce Thompson still out for Tennessee. We thought he may be reinstated. Colin Johnson is back for Texas. Courtney Davis banged up for A&M right now. He missed last game. He is listed as questionable. For Troy, B.J. Smith, their running back, is out for the year. That hurts. And we told you Chris Barnes out for UCLA at a big loss. And that a look at the injuries for tomorrow. We take our final break. We come back. We go rapid fire NFL Sports X Radio, the new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDWN. Ken Thomson, Brad Powers on the pregame.com celebrity guest line. J.D. Sharp, he is with me right here at Legacy Stadium inside the beautiful Venetian Palazzo. We'll be right back live from Vegas. Didn't have an answer via the airways. Did a great job against SC on the ground. Got to give Southern Cal credit. And had they not lost that game to BYU, boy, they'd really be pushing forward. Right now we're going to hit the NFL. Ken Thomson, Brad Powers, J.D. Sharp. Of course, J.D. and myself were live at Legacy Stadium. Brad Powers on the pregame.com celebrity guest line. We jump right into it with the Broncos and the Packers. This line's sitting at 7.5. It's getting close to 7 some places, Brad, so it won't surprise me if it drops there. Packers 21-0 out of the gate against Minnesota. Had to hold on for dear life. Got a late interception against Cousins and 4 turnovers from the Vikings, and they win at 21-16. Rodgers and the guys. In fact, I do see a couple 7s now. In fact, starting to pop up. You do have to lay some juice in a couple places. 7 minus 120 on Green Bay. Total of 43 from Lambeau, Brad.
Yeah, I'm on Denver here. I know it's tough, a pill to swallow on an 0-2 team, but I just look at Green Bay off of 2 big-time wins over division rivals, and keep in mind they got a Thursday night home game against the Eagles on deck. I lean with the Broncos.
Yeah, Green Bay looks better defensively. They've got a lot more size at wide receiver than Denver has at corner. I like Green Bay -7. They could win this game by 2 touchdowns.
All right, Raven Green, their safety, is on IR. He is out. Jimmy Graham listed as questionable for the Broncos, for the Packers, and of course the Broncos coming off that tough loss to the Bears. Again, a late roughing the passer call that I just didn't agree with on Trubisky, and that helped keep Chicago alive. They were able to get into field goal range in the Mile High City, and of course Pinheiro able to nail the 58-yarder, helped the Broncos go down to the Bears, and that one hurt big time. Meanwhile, Detroit at Philadelphia. Philadelphia is banged up at the wide receiver position. No Deshaun Jackson, no Alshon Jeffrey. They still have Aguilar, and I'm waiting to see if Arcega-Whiteside is able to step up. Goddard is questionable. Ertz got banged up last week, but he's going to go. It's a Detroit team that found a way to get past the Chargers with a late comeback, and that's a rarity for Detroit. Doesn't matter home or road. For them to get the win, that was key. They're 1-0-1. Remember the tie against Arizona? Philly down to 5.5, 45.5, Brad.
Yeah, a lot of money on the Lions here. You look at a Philadelphia team that's given up 700 passing yards, 6 touchdowns in 2 games, and they're continuously banged up in the secondary. I lean with the Lions.
Like Lions here as well. I think they're one of the most improved teams in the NFL. I like them to possibly win 7-8 games this year.
Identical line from Arrowhead. Kansas City -5.5, 52. Last year, these two teams tooth and nail, and a lot of people like the Baltimore Ravens. Now, the Ravens have only played Miami, and they played Arizona at home. They did go down to Miami, put up a 59 spot. You've got a team that, is scoring points, and Lamar Jackson looking great against those two teams. Now we'll see how he looks against Kansas City. But KC also missing Fisher, their left tackle, and that is key as far as pass protection. But the second quarter that Mahomes put on, it was a display in Oakland last week. Now, Tyreek Hill out, but Hardman, the youngster out of Georgia, stepping up with Demarcus Robinson, the youngster out of Florida from a couple years ago. Damian Williams and McCoy both nursing knee and ankle injuries, respectively. We'll see how it goes. It's Arrowhead. It's KC's home opener. What about it, Brad? KC -5.5. A lot of people like Baltimore. 52 the total.
Nah, I would lean with KC here. I just trust Andy Reid early on the season. Look at the last couple of years to start off seasons. 2 years ago, 5-0 against the spread to start off the season. Last year, 6-0-1 to start off the spread. They're already off to a 2-0 start. I like the superior team at home here. Give me the Chiefs.
Like the under here, Casey.
All right, so 52, you can find some 52.5s, was at 54, so it has trended that way. And keep an eye on the weather. Could still be rainy in the Kansas City area. Cincinnati and Buffalo, 2-0 for Buffalo, 0-2 for Cincinnati. Cincinnati probably should have won that first game in Seattle, but could not close it out. Buffalo winning both games at MetLife Stadium, beat the Jets coming back from 16-0, beat them by a point, and then they dominated the Giants last week. Buffalo -6, 44. It's a good, solid Bills team that looks like they can be a player as far as potentially a wild card. Who knows? You get out of the gate 2-0, you've got a good chance to at least get some ground on some of the other teams that are going to be battling. And look at Pittsburgh sitting at 0-2. So what about it, Brad? How good is, this team with Josh Allen at the helm? No more Shady McCoy. Now, they are going to miss Devin Singletary this game, and that'll hurt him out of the backfield.
Yeah, I just think Buffalo, can they handle success here? They're off a pair of road wins over, quote-unquote in-state rivals on the road. Are they feeling fat and happy here and laying this kind of number with them? I just don't trust it. I lean with the Bengals.
Yeah, I like the Bengals and under here, KT. I think they just have better athletes across the board. I like Dalton's accuracy compared to Allen, and again, Allen on the road. Frank
Gore, T.J. Yeldon will handle the work in the backfield for Buffalo. Again, as they are down without Singletary. Atlanta, miracle finish last Sunday night, beat Philadelphia. Julio Jones, the long touchdown reception on a 4th down, taking on an Indianapolis team that's pretty banged up, but a Colts team that, found a way to get a road win in Tennessee, but they're missing their signal caller on defense, Darius Leonard, who already has 18 tackles and a sack. He's looking like he's going to miss with a concussion. So check that out. Make sure. But he was listed as doubtful last I saw. And Indy right now, 1.5-point favorite, 47 the total, Brad, from Indy.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Atlanta here. I just can't trust Indianapolis with Vinatieri in a close game. I mean, he's already missed 5 kicks, 2 more extra points again last week. And in a game that's going to come down to the wire, I'll take the Falcons.
Yeah, valid point here. I like Matt Ryan over Jacoby Brissett for a number of reasons. I like the wide receiver core, and I think that their defense against the pass is pretty impressive, especially with Deion Jones.
All right, so we'll see how things pan out. Atlanta, again, catching 1.5 at Indianapolis. The Raiders. Boy, tough second quarter last week, but if I told you they were going to shut out Kansas City 3 quarters, you would have thought, hey, they probably had a good chance to win. Got out 10-0, but then that 28-point second quarter, neither team scored in the second half. Oakland now has to put it together and go to Minnesota. And we talked about the Vikings smarting after that tough loss against Green Bay, 21-16. Vikings now up to 9 pretty much everywhere. Still can find a couple 8.5s around town. So if you want to tease it under a field goal on a 6-point teaser, make sure you go to one of those shops and do it that way and pay less juice. Total's 43.5. It's a Raider team that's banged up with Josh Jacobs nursing a sickness and also a banged up foot. Also for the Raiders, waiting to see if Trent Brown, the right tackle, goes because he was really banged up and came out of the game last week, was listed as questionable last I had saw prior to the broadcast. Minnesota -9, 43.5. Brad, what about the Vikings?
Yeah, I'd lay it here. I mean, Minnesota's 22-6 against the spread as a home favorite under Mike Zimmer. Dreaded 10 a.m. start time for Oakland, and Minnesota coming off a loss. I'll take the Vikings.
Yeah, I think Vikings win this by 14+. I also like the under. I'm not sure how the Raiders can score 10 in this game.
Yeah, a lot of money coming in on Minnesota. And, again, the Raiders, with those injuries, that does not help going to Minnesota. And that's a tough environment, no question about it. And the Vikings smarting off that tough loss to Green Bay. Jets in New England, this is one of 2 games that'll be up over 20 points for the favorite. 21 right now as money has come in on the Jets. 43.5 is the total. It's a Jets team that looked pretty anemic against the Cleveland Browns on Monday. No Sam Darnold. As you know, Simeon also hurt his ankle. He's out for the year. So they're going to go with Luke Falk, the youngster out of Wazoo. So you've got Falk. You've got the mustache over there, Minshew quarterbacking Jacksonville.
And soon to be Anthony Gordon.
There you go. And Quinnen Williams for the Jets. He's listed as out now, and so is Mosley, the linebacker. And Nunn was already been out, the receiver. Jets are just a mess right now as far as injuries. But, Brad, it's a lot of points in the NFL. 21, 43.5. New England the favorite at home.
Yeah, I mean, since 1989, there's been 5 favorites in the NFL, 21 points or more. They're 0-5 against the spread. Just for that, I'll lean with the Jets here, KT.
You know, I watched Le'Veon Bell. I thought Le'Veon Bell looked pretty decent against those Browns. Luke Falk looked okay, 21 points in the NFL is just a lot of points. You have to go. I mean, I could never take the Patriots here.
Oh, we see the way Minshew's winging that ball around. We know Falk, if he gets protection, that's the problem against Cleveland early. Simeon got no protection, and then Falk early on in his stint didn't get protection. But later on, the Jets, when they gave him time, he was able to complete some passes.
And Patriots don't have a Myles Garrett.
They don't, but their defense has been pretty solid. Now, again, the competition, when you take Miami into consideration as one of those wins, not that solid yet for the Pats. Miami and Dallas, that's Miami, a team that doesn't have Minkah Fitzpatrick anymore because they traded him away to Pittsburgh. So there'll be a lot of Miami people out here in Vegas for that draft in April because they're going to have a lot of first-round picks, it looks like. Dallas, 22.5, the favorite, 47.5 is the total. Josh Rosen will start the game for Miami. Brad Powers, boy, this poor Miami team, I mean, Dallas can just lay it on them. They were able to get their offense going against the Redskins after it took them about a quarter and 5 minutes to do so, and then they end up winning that game by 10, putting up 31. What about in Big D? They don't want to disappoint the home fans who are probably sitting there laying the points.
Broken record, KT, since 1989, 21 point or more favorites in the NFL are 0-5 against the spread. Give me the Dolphins.
Yeah, is Rashad Jones playing?
You know what? I'm not seeing that he's out.
If he's playing and Xavier Howard's playing, and they have some, they're still an NFL squad. They've got some talent offensively. I prefer Rosen over Fitzpatrick all day long. Devontae Parker has size. on Cowboys corners, I like the Dolphins here.
Yeah, only Albert Wilson out for the Dolphins. By the way, for the Cowboys, they are missing defensive tackle Antoine Woods, wide receiver Michael Gallup's out for 2 to 4 weeks, and Xavier Woods, who's their second leading tackler, is also out with an ankle injury for the Cowboys. So 3 key injuries there for Big D. Next game on the docket, we look on down, and it is right now the Bucs -6, 47.5. Brad, I'm going to start with you on this one. Giants finally taking Eli out of the mix. Your take? I'm sorry, JD.
Yeah, I'll say this, KT. Yeah, I think Daniel Jones could be an upgrade, at least for this game. I think there's some excitement there. And this is only the second time in 7 years Tampa Bay's like 6 or more. I'll take the Giants.
I like Tampa Bay against the run here. All the Giants can do is run the ball. They've got Sterling Shepard and Evan Ingram at wide receiver. I like Hargreaves having a decent year. I would say the Bucs have probably a top 5 front 7. I like the Bucs -6 here.
Brad, that's the second time I did that. The no look to JD, like I looked at him for the play, but I said Brad. It's great.
And I'm just guessing.
It's just awesome over here at Legacy Stadium. Having fun trying to get all these games in there on a Friday night. Carolina's at Arizona. Kyle Allen will make the start for Carolina. They have the extra day's rest, a few days rest there from that Thursday night game. Carolina going to they're actually going to catch 2 points. This line was 3 in the Westgate contest with Kyler Murray and the guys laying points, 44.5 the total. I just have a feeling. That Carolina is going to come play. I don't know how good Kyle Allen's going to do, but I have a feeling he's taking all the snaps from the ones. Carolina's 0-2, and I think they're going to come out hungry. And with the extra rest, I think they're going to win the game, Brad.
I agree with you, KT. That's an overreaction. I mean, Cam Newton can't be worth 5 points to a line at this stage. I mean, he's played like a bottom 5 quarterback in the NFL so far the first couple of weeks, and he's worth 5 points. I can't imagine it. I'll take the Panthers.
I like both teams scoring points. Kyler Murray dropped 350 yards on the road in Baltimore. That offense can obviously play. I think Andy Isabella is actually back for this game as well, and that's a big addition for them. He runs a 4.31. I like the over.
Yeah, it's the only reason UMass is struggling. That's why Brad's on those big numbers. New Orleans at Seattle, and of course Teddy Bridgewater quarterbacking now with Breeze out 6 to 8 weeks. Teddy, though, taking all the snaps this week, and Seattle -4.5, 44.5. I got a feeling. I just got a feeling here, too, that New Orleans is going to hang in there. I'm going to tease New Orleans up to 10.5 in one of my teasers late afternoon. Brad, your take on this one. New Orleans at Seattle. Russell Wilson and the guys 4.5 at home.
Yeah, KT, I'm going to go with Seattle here. I mean, this is giving too much respect to Teddy Bridgewater. I mean, Seattle's got one of the best home field advantages in the NFL. So, I mean, what is this saying? Seattle and neutrals, maybe a half point better.
Houston and the Chargers from L.A. at StubHub Center, and 2 tales of an offense that was great in the opening Monday night loss for Houston and then struggled last week. They were fortunate to hold Jacksonville on that 2-point conversion. They get a 1-point win at H-Town. Chargers -3, -120. So Houston, if you take them +3, you'll get even money. 48.5, Brad, the line there. 3 points, Chargers favored over Houston.
I'll take Houston. I mean, the Chargers are just too banged up for me to recommend them, and you're considering a Chargers team that's got a limited home field advantage. I'll take the Texans.
Totally agree on Texans. They have too much talent at wide receiver. The Chargers do have a lot of injuries. If Derwin James is playing, I would be singing a different tune. Also, Austin Eckler is not. Melvin Gordon. I like the Texans here.
I tell you what, I think Eckler's pretty darn good, man. I like him. I like his versatility, and I think he's a tough runner. And I think Gordon picked the wrong team to sit out with, because unless Eckler gets hurt, he may have trouble just getting back on that roster and getting some playing time. We'll see how things pan out. Right now, he's on the sidelines and he's not getting any action. Next game, Pittsburgh and San Francisco. Niners 2-0, 6.5, 43.5. Found a way to get a late interception return to knock off Tampa Bay, but really got the offense rolling last week with Jimmy G in Cincinnati, taking care of business in a big way. Now they are without their left tackle, Joe Staley, who's out for 6 to 8 weeks. Tevin Coleman's already out, and D. Ford listed as questionable. That's key for the defense for Pittsburgh. They do get Minkah Fitzpatrick. I expect to see him in there. He's a guy that's going to pick it up quickly, especially on passing downs. 43.5 the total. San Fran 6.5. Brad, this is a tough one because I think Mason Rudolph, I think this guy might be pretty good.
Yeah, I agree, KT. I'm going to take the Steelers here. I like taking on a team that's, usually not 0-2. It's first time that's happened in 6 years for the Steelers. 49ers, how do they handle success? They're 2-0 for the first time since 2012. I'm going to take a flyer with Pittsburgh. I think they're motivated. I wouldn't even be shocked if they won the game outright. That's how much I like Pittsburgh.
Yeah, this is the game that I like the most in the NFL, and I'm just falling on a grenade, I'm sure. But Smith-Schuster, they have a lot of talent offensively. They have a ton of talent. I mean, they've only drafted defense for the last 6 years. They have a ton of talent defensively. Joe Staley going down is a big deal. Minkah Fitzpatrick was a dominant player in college. I think he'll really fit in on that Steelers defense.
So that's your play, Pittsburgh?
I like Pittsburgh, yeah.
All right, both guys looking at the Steelers. I can't disagree. Rams in Cleveland, Sunday night game. Rams staying at 3, -120 at Cleveland, 47.5. A banged-up Browns team, but Beckham's looking like he's going to go. Mayfield's got to do better than he's done, although they dominated the Jets, but it wasn't, the prettiest. I mean, Beckham had the one-handed catch in the 89-yard touchdown play that really gave the Browns some separation there. Brad, what about it Sunday night, or Rams looking to go 3-0?
I'm on the Rams, KT. I mean, Cleveland's without Njoku, an offensive tackle, 3 defensive starters, and 3 more guys in the secondary are questionable for the game. I know it's a big game for Cleveland, but I just trust the Rams in this spot. I'll lay it.
It's going to be a great game to watch. It's nice to see Mayfield against Goff. I like the Browns here for a number of reasons, but I don't really want to make a play on it. It's a pass for me at this point.
All right, Kirksey also, their linebacker, is out. Has 11 tackles already on the season, but he is out. And that brings us to the Monday night finale. Chicago and the Redskins. Bears right now -4, 41 the total. And it's a Washington team that's looking for a victory. Got off to the great start in Philadelphia. Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie is out for the Skins. And for the Bears right now, I'm looking. I don't see any injuries of magnitude for Chicago. Brad, your take on this one, as the Bears found a way to get it done in Denver with the late field goal from Pinheiro to even their record off after the lackluster performance by Trubisky against Green Bay. What about it? Bears -4, 41 in D.C.
Yeah, I don't want to lay the 4 with Chicago, back-to-back road games across the country. For me, it's Washington or nothing, and I'll be quite frank, it's probably nothing for me. I'm not going to have much on this Monday night game.
Yeah, I like the Bears here -4. I think they can win by 10 plus. Their defense is it's going to be really difficult for Washington starting quarterback to get anything done against their defense. They're pretty stingy. They're really, really good in space against those shorter routes, which I think the Washington will have to do in this game because their quarterback doesn't have a great arm.
JD, rapid fire, your best college play for the listeners out there.
Tennessee +14.
Tennessee +14. Your best pro play.
Pittsburgh +6.5.
So buy it up to 7.
That would be a great idea.
There you go. Buy it up to 7. Pay it a little bit. Brad, what about it? Give us one college and one pro.
I'm going to go Tulsa -3.5, and then I'm going to go Pittsburgh +6.5. No buying points. We won't need it.
Okay, there you go. The guys saying no buying points. Boy, I'm having trouble as far as in the NFL. But I'm going to take a shot on a teaser, 6-point teaser, and take the Saints up to 10.5 and tease them with the Texans +9. See how that goes on a late afternoon teaser as far as the NFL. And I'm going to give you Texas to break that losing streak against Okie State as far as on the college side. Thanks to Brad Powers at Brad Powers 7, JD Sharp at I'm JD Sharp.
Yeah, I am JD Sharp.
I am. There you go. And thanks to Sean back at the studio. Thanks to you, the listeners. Thanks to everybody here at the Venetian Palazzo and, of course, Legacy Stadium. Back on Monday with Fish Fane to review everything from a wild week. Till then, you know the rules, folks. No drinking and driving, no texting and driving. Most of all, God bless our troops. God bless you. Live from Vegas, Sports X Radio, the new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDWN. Have a great weekend. God bless. Good night, everybody.